The following video has been written and created without the use of AI. Due to recent changes in the YouTube algorithm, liking is more important than ever. So if you enjoy the video, please leave a like. You'll be paying my food this way so I can produce more videos like this one. Thank you. Your lungs were screaming. You didn't breathe. You gasped. Every inhale sharp and useless, dragging through your throat like glass. Your heart pounded so violently it hurt, slamming against your ribs like it wanted to escape your chest. You didn't know how long you'd been running. You didn't care. You just knew that you couldn't stop. Your feet slammed the cracked pavement, the soles of your shoes slipping against patches of wet gravel and discarded trash. You turned a corner, ducked under a broken storefront sign, and nearly tripped over a rusted shopping cart lodged in the middle of the alley. A scream tore from your throat, not because you were hurt, but because you knew he was behind you, still behind you. You could hear him. The wet slap of bare flesh against concrete, the creak of bones grinding in impossible ways, that sound like meat slapping meat faster and closer, and that goddamn laughing. A low, gurgling laugh, like it started in his stomach and scraped its way up his throat with teeth. You pushed harder, pumping your arms, ducking through another alley. They all looked the same. Tight and grimy corridors cramped between buildings that hadn't seen life in years. Vines hung from broken windows, paper-thin posters flapped from rotten wooden fences, peeling away into meaningless strips. The sky above you was slick, grey, too still. It was wrong. There was no sound, no sun, not even the moon. All you could hear was the blood in your ears. You slipped, your foot hitting something slick. You stumbled sideways, barely catching yourself against a busted trash bin, your palm cutting open on a jagged edge of metal. You didn't look. You didn't have time for that. You pushed off of it and kept going, down another tight turn, over a low chain-link fence, scraping your chin raw as you fell over. You bit back a scream. You couldn't afford time. It would cost. Behind you, that terrible thing crashed through the fence like it was paper. He didn't slow down, didn't hesitate, didn't feel. You dared to glance back just once, and your breath hitched. Solid red, not like paint, not like ink, like meat. Raw, wet, exposed meat without skin, with bones poking out in the wrong places like his skin hadn't been finished. Ribs split wide, spine rigid like a centipede's back, shoulder blades like snapped wings. And that face. His eyes were black beads sunk deep into gore. His mouth, that smile, that wasn't a smile. It was carved, torn open to its ears, like someone had taken a knife and meant it. Your legs screamed for you to stop, but you couldn't. He wasn't even running like a person, more like something crawling inside a person, skin, and only half figuring out how it worked. You duck into a side alley, narrow, slick, with green runoff. Too narrow. Your shoulder slammed against the wall, smearing blood down the bricks. But you kept going. You had to. We're stuck at a dead end now. You skidded to a stop. No. It was a loading dock. Fenced off, entirely. Barbed wire across the top. Dumpsters in front of it. Not enough to climb. Not fast enough. You spun around, eyes wide, chest heaving like your ribs were going to snap from the pressure. The alley behind you was empty for only a second. Or two. Then you appeared, turning the corner slow and methodically, red and grinning. He no longer needed to rush. He had you. Your fingers curled into fists, knuckles wide and sticky with blood. Tears blurred your vision, stung your cheeks mixed with sweat and dirt. He tilted his head to the side, vertebrae cracking like snapping twigs. He took a step, and then another. Your lips parted, but no sound came. Not a scream, not a word, just air and fear, and then the burn in your throat. You looked left, right. There was no way out. There were no doors, no windows. At least none that were low enough to reach. The killer approached you slowly, his head twitching as he carved smile of his seemed to widen, cracking open at the seams, his horrifying visage being enough to almost make you faint. You fell backwards, hitting your head against the trash container. The split second you were knocked out was enough for him to close the distance. And when your senses returned, he was above you, knees pressed into your side, straightening you. He raised his arm to destroy you, but... whack! Your hand had found a brick beneath the container behind you. And without thinking, your fingers took hold of it. The creature was dazed for only a moment, but your mind, broken. You could no longer control yourself. Your vision stuttered, white, black, then color. The cold brick throbbed in your grip like a second heartbeat. No thoughts and no hesitation. You swung. The brick cracked against the side of his skull with a sickening wet thunk. He twitched. His head jerked sideways, but that carved smile never faded. You didn't wait, didn't breathe. You swung again, harder. The brick struck his temple. Skin split like rotten fruit. A spray of thick, dark blood fanned across your face and chest. He let out a sound, something between a cough and a laugh. But you didn't stop. You couldn't stop, even if you wanted. Your whole body moved now, not just your arms. You rolled, got one knee beneath you, screamed and brought the brick down again, and again, and again. Every hit made your bones ring. Every hit turned his face more unrecognizable. Bone crunched like dry leaves. The flesh caved in, too soft, too wrong. His eye popped beneath the brick like an overripe berry. You couldn't hear anymore, just a pounding rush of blood in your skull. Your screams were wordless, ragged and raw. You were crying, maybe? Perhaps laughing? You didn't know, nor did you care. His arms twitched, claws scraping at the concrete weakly. You kept going. Your arms burned, your fingers were slicked with ichor, nearly losing grip, but you tightened them, roared, brought it down again. What was once a face had become a pit of meat and splinters. Teeth jutted from shredded gums. His red blood pooled beneath you, soaking your knees, warm and reeking of rot. Your chest heaved, the brick slipped from your fingers and clattered to the ground. You stared at what you'd done. For one breathless second, you felt alive. Your body was shaking, sweat and blood pouring down your face. Your hands, fingers, your entire body couldn't stop shaking. An almost comedic fart-like sound came from the destroyed cool kit when the sky above broke open, revealing a swirling black and red mist, almost glitchy at the seams. The world, it was reacting to your actions. The Specter, having loved your performance. The entity responsible for this deadly game of cat and mouse that never seemed to end. But you had done something no one else had ever dared. Well, mostly because the Specter made sure to weaken the wills of his little forsaken souls. The entity fed on these feelings of dread and chaos, but Just now, the Specter had felt a new feeling, tasted that sweet, sweet feeling. It was more tasty than candy floss. Something he never thought he'd taste. It was a negative emotion, sure, but it was seasoned with triumph. For humans, the equivalent would be akin to salted caramel. Sweet meeting with its opposite, salty, in just a perfect combination. The black and red clouds turned into a tube as they descended onto you. It felt as if a million hands all at once were touching and pulling at your body as you were lifted upwards, your vision becoming a blur of pixels. It burned your eyes. You wanted to shield them with your hands, but you were unable to move, and then, with the force of being spit out by a large predator, you are thrown back first onto a hard surface. You were still covered in Cool Kid's viscera, your clothes dirty and sticky with sweat and blood. The air tasted weird, like static. No, it was more neutral than static. Perhaps snow? Yeah, that was a good way to describe it. Your eyes still hadn't adjusted. Still, all you could see was the color of the storm, but with the only font left, you pressed both hands against your face, rubbing circles into them, until things returned to normal. Exhaustion. Yeah, that was a good way to describing how you felt right now. Filthy. Yeah, that too. You looked at your hands, shaking, gangly things. But, wait. You looked around. This wasn't the lobby that you were usually in. The lobby that the Specter created for his little survivors. You found yourself in a 10-meter by 10-meter concrete cube. The ceiling covered in dice-shaped light fixtures that gave off an almost too comforting, cozy yellowish glow. There was no furniture in the room either. Was the Specter punishing you for ruining his game by killing Cool Kid? No. In this realm, no one stayed dead for long. Just as you stood up, behind you a mirror manifested. You could hear it. It was warped in by the Specter. And with a shocked expression, you looked at yourself. You had changed, certainly. You look barely human. If this was your time spent here, or just the fact that you were covered in someone else's gore, you didn't know, but your eyes were uncannily sunken in, almost like black holes. And your hair, black and wild, was tangling everywhere, sticky with blood. Your clothes were completely torn, barely clinging onto your slender frame. You looked like a ghost. You almost screamed, actually. Wait. With your tongue, you rubbed against your teeth. Were they always this sharp? It was difficult not to panic. Meanwhile, the Specter was observing you, isolating you from everyone else after such an interesting turn of events was just something that made sense to it. He had returned your physical strength for but a mere moment to see what would happen, and the moment of first impact, robbing the Forsaken of their natural human strength. He had returned your physical strength for but a mere moment, the moment of first impact. And this was also the moment where he felt like giving you a more appropriate appearance to what you were doing. After all, robbing the normal Forsaken of their natural human strength was a given. He was glad that he allowed you a brief moment. The fear Cool Kid felt in the moment the brick hit him for the first time, when you overpowered him. It was wonderfully tasty after all. The Specter didn't like to play favorites, of course. It ruined his meals. Giving someone more attention than others soured the stew, so to speak, and yet It didn't fully understand why it brought you here, why it changed your appearance to be more appealing to it, and why it wanted you here in the first place. Suddenly, your sunken eyes widen with reawakened horror, as in the mirror, but not as you look behind yourself, where you just saw concrete. A black shape dripped from the ceiling like viscous liquid, slowly building itself up behind you. It was like a car crash. You couldn't look away from the mirror. While the Specter didn't have a physical body, it knew how to appear to someone, to let just enough of its true Eldritch appearance flow, to create a puppet of darkness and malicious intent, forming into the shape of something humanoid. A shade twitching with red blurs, wide eyes and razor-sharp teeth glowing so brightly they almost were unrecognizable. You are paralyzed with fear, something the Specter appreciated. It was like a sweet wine before the main course. You watched as the shade in the mirror reached around your shoulders, and then you screamed. You could feel it touch you, hold you. The mirror being like a lens to actually see what the Specter was doing to you. It was holding you? Hugging you? But why? His teeth flashed brightly as they scraped against your bare shoulder skin. But as you turned to look at yours, all you could see were invisible indents into your skin. Was it trying to seduce you? You couldn't move. Not really. Your limbs twitched, but the rest of you refused to obey. You stared into the mirror, into him, the thing, as it wrapped itself around your back like a second skin. His arms were long, twitching ropes of darkness, pulsing red at the seams like faulty wiring. You felt every inch of him, but saw nothing when you looked down, only the mirror reflection. The horror. He stood tall behind you, his form vibrating with giddy tension, his smile impossibly wide, white, jagged, stretching ear to ear. His face twitched, glitched, and then twitched again. And then he pressed closer. The air behind you collapsed in on itself as you stood in the eye of a storm. You gasped. The mirror showed his hands, if you could call them that, brushing down your sides, trailing your hips, cold and hungry. Your clothes responded, lifted by invisible strings. Your shirt crumbled, peeled up inch by inch. You could feel his breath, if he breathed, fanning hot and rank against your ear. But when you turned your head, there was nothing, just air, and still you felt him. His mouth pressed against your neck, wide and open, teeth scraping, not biting, but testing. Your knees locked, your fingers dug into your own arms as if to keep grounded in your body. The mirror showed more than your reflection. It showed possession. Your body stiff in the real world, your body claimed in the reflection. He lifted you gently like a doll, only to press you into the glass, face first. You felt his tongue, or something like it, lap at the shell of your ear, sharp pinpricks tracing the line of your spine. His hands were everywhere now, pulling and gripping, kneading your waist with wet, twitching hunger. He was trying to devour without breaking you. Just enough pressure to frighten, just enough tenderness to confuse. You could feel the drag of teeth against your shoulder blade. He nibbed, not hard, but it threatened to be. You made your breath catch, your legs tremble. His fingers slid up your torso under what little clothing remained. In the mirror, they coiled around your chest, your ribs, your neck. You could see the pressure, flesh indenting. Your eyes rolled up for a moment. He moaned. At least it was something like a moan from behind the glass. It was an awful, ecstatic noise, too close to human, but broken. Like pressing through a glitched computer. You pressed your palms to the mirror, forehead against glass. The surface was cold, his body wasn't. He ground into you, every movement a stutter, a pulse, a corruption of rhythm. The lines of his body glitched, twitched, writhing in shapes no anatomy could explain. His tongue dragged across your cheek and then vanished. Your pants slipped lower. The mirror showed them puddling around your ankles, tugging by invisible hands. You started to cry. Not because of pain, but because you felt something you couldn't understand. It was pleasure, terror, exhaustion. The Specter seemed to drink it in from your skin. His face leaned close in the mirror, eye to eye. His mouth opened wide, wider than before, so wide you could see a writhing universe of teeth inside, and he smiled with his whole body, and he spoke, not in words, but in meaning, in words that you could see inside of your inner eyes.
I see you.
Your breath caught in your throat. He loomed impossibly tall, twitching with glitches and twitching static, bleeding red light from seams in his shade-born body. You stared at your reflection, but your eyes kept slipping upward to his hands that were coiling around your shoulders. You couldn't see them on your flesh, but you felt the movement. Every finger, they massaged your arms with clawed precision, then slid down, slow, kneading, mapping every inch of exposed skin. He touched like someone sculpting meat. Your ribs ached where his phantom grip pressed in, thumbs digging deep into muscle like he was feeling for something inside you. Your breath hitched, and then he bit on your neck. You saw his fanged grin in the mirror right before you felt it, piercing, dragging, not deep enough to bleed, but enough to make you flinch, cry out without sound. Another bite followed, lower into your shoulder, then your waist, and finally he broke skin, fresh blood. It was running down your body as if those holes were just there. Your back curved against the invisible touch as claws skimmed your sides, scraping, squeezing, holding you still like a butterfly pinned to a board. Your reflection looked feral, hair tangled, lips parted, eyes hollow, but there was heat flushing your cheeks, a heat sick from shame, terror. You didn't know. He lifted your shirt without touching it, just air, hot and charred, slid beneath it, lifting the fabric as though your clothes were obeying his will and not yours. Your stomach was bared, your chest was bare to it. You watched in the mirror as his claws traced you. You saw nothing but your own flesh, but the red marks they left behind on you after the other. He gripped your hips with sudden, vicious force. You gasped. You felt his weight behind you now, like gravity had bent, clawed fingers sinking into the top of your thighs, pressing until the skin pinched and burned. His body was everywhere and nowhere, his chest pressed to your back, his jaw grazing your ear, his teeth finding your throat again. You flinched as he bit harder. Your reflection showed skin dimpling under invisible jaws. Then his hands moved again over your ribs, the fresh wounds he had inflicted, and your stomach, and finally he cupped your chest, pawed like an animal, teased, kneaded, and scraped. It felt like being devoured with touch. Breath hitched in your throat. One leg was lifted by force, bent at the knee. Your clothing clung, still half on, half torn. You felt him beneath you now, coiling between your legs, pressure mounting, his tongue too long and too hot, dragging along your spine. In the mirror you saw teeth and light and smoke where his face should be. You arced against your will, his claws dug in. He bit again, this time at your shoulder blade, tearing just enough to sting. Your breath was ragged, sweat slid down your face and your chest. You could barely keep your eyes open. But you had to keep looking. If you didn't watch the mirror, you didn't know where he was. You didn't know what he was doing. You didn't know what he'd become. Your clothes were now completely torn off. You forced your hands on your chest to shield yourself, but from behind, he grabbed you violently, a static blur with teeth, too slow, white, too many. You felt the heat coil deep in your body, felt his breath on the back of your neck, felt the tremble in your legs as he positioned you. Hey, you reached the end of the video! That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret club password for this month is Rusty Spoons. Put the secret message in your comment below to tell fellow members that you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before we say goodbye, I want to take the opportunity and thank my channel members. And if you want me to say something silly here, just have a funny account name and join my darling Steward tier. We have Meow Meow Person, Puppet Noah, ADHD Neptune, Mimi Mumu, Adrijama, Jaws, Melofia, Maxicat, Allison Watkins, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, and Anonymous Weep. Thank you for being dying stewards, and of course, a big thank you to all the other channel members. I cannot do this without you. Bye!